One of the great things about travelling with Viking is the incredibly diverse range of experiences you can have and cultures you can experience. Sadly, here on Antarctica, there are no indigenous populations, so culture is a little bit more challenged. However, I am told that there is a local here that you've got to meet, and I believe they're a little bit better equipped for the cold than I am. These are the Adelie Penguins. Living about 15 to 20 years in the wild, these penguins are a vital part of the ecosystem, forming giant colonies, often numbering in the thousands, and they're abundant here at Brown Bluff. Following the theme of Viking's working research vessels, at times there will be penguin counters on board conducting vital counts of the penguin populations in Antarctica. And today we have the very rare opportunity to learn a little bit more about this valuable work that they do. This is Hayley Charlton Howard from Oceanites. Having a look around us, how on earth do you count penguins?
So that's one of the most common questions we get asked is how do we count the penguins and how do we make sure we don't count the same one twice?
Yes.
And the answer is we count the nests, not the penguins themselves, because fortunately the nests don't move. So what we'll do is we'll walk around the colony, we'll use our trusty clickers and we'll click every time we see a nest. We'll write it down, we'll count 3 times and we'll repeat that process just to make sure we're not introducing any human error and to make sure our counts are accurate.
Yep.
And then eventually we'll tally these up and we'll have an estimate of the population size.
So this is a pretty unique location. There's a couple of different species of penguin here, right?
Yeah, so at Brown Bluff we're incredibly lucky. We have about 19,000 Adelie nests and about 1,000 Gentoo nests, and they coexist side by side, although there's a very distinctive gap between one population and the other.
We're pretty lucky, obviously, to be here at this moment in time. This is the middle of summer, not that I can tell, but for these guys, it's warm weather, but later on, this is all going to freeze. What happens? Do they stay here or do they go somewhere else?
So penguins are seabirds. They are well adapted to life at sea. So basically, once they're done with their reproduction, they'll continue following the sea ice and they'll go out to sea to feed for many months until the breeding season rolls around and the ice recedes and they'll come right back here.
And, you know, I suppose when you're here in Antarctica, there's stuff that you're learning every day and there's things that you know, the stuff that you're working on a regular basis. Every once in a while, something very special happens though. And recently you found a new colony.
Yes, that's true. So when we were surveying Astrolabe Island a couple of weeks ago, we were doing our standard surveys, flying the drone from the Zodiac, and we noticed a rock far off in the distance that sort of had a little bit of a pink tinge to it. And it happened to be an entirely new chinstrap colony. We don't know if it's a newly established colony, whether the chinstraps are moving from Astrolabe to a place called Diaz Rock, or whether it was just entirely missed previously.
It's quite touching to observe a sort of family dynamic amongst these birds. It's well documented that these birds stick together more than their airborne counterparts, and it's not surprising given the environment and the support that a colony like this allows. Once the counting onshore is complete, then comes the next step, back on board. You've spent your morning out counting penguins. What happens with that data?
So once we're back on board, we'll download the data, upload it, make sure it's safe on the cloud, and we'll import that into a GIS software. Instead of using our hand clickers, we'll use our mouse and we'll go through and we'll click every single nest. What we'll also do is we'll tally up our hand count data so we can get a sort of a final score, I guess, of how many nests we saw in the day and how many chicks.
Populations penguins growing or are they declining at the moment?
Yeah, so we're really trying to understand that a little bit better. The Antarctic Peninsula, along with the Arctic, is one of the fastest warming areas on the planet. So we're starting to call Gentoos sort of climate change winners in this circumstance. They're just slightly better at adapting to a changing environment. And so, for example, they're a little bit more flexible in their diet. They will eat krill primarily, but they can also switch to other species of marine organisms if krill's not available.
Do you think that the work that you're doing is going to help other penguin populations into the future?
We really hope so. Oceanites as an organisation has been really fundamental in establishing our site protocols and working with policymakers to try and reduce our impact as much as possible. And providing our count information, we can sort of paint the picture of how Antarctica is doing in terms of health, but then also contribute to its conservation and management.
It's a surreal experience coming from the red dirt and sunburnt country of Australia to see this brilliant white land filled with a unique ecosystem that is completely different to anywhere else on the planet.